guys, this is the third video in the series of gun basics, and let me just state once again, a lot of you guys are going to know this stuff already. This is aimed at new shooters, younger shooters, people who are not familiar with the terminology and feel a little intimidated going into a gun store or to a gun range and feeling like they don't really know what's going on. This is just trying to help clear up a few points to educate people. If you watch any videos on YouTube at all, any gun videos I should say, you will hear people talking about DA, SADA, DAO. What does all that mean? Well, it's really not complicated. It's really pretty simple. I'm going to go back to the same revolver that I've been using for a lot of these demonstrations. It is unloaded. DASA means double action, single action, and they basically refer to types of triggers on different models of guns. This is a DASA revolver. DA stands for double action, SA stands for single action. Double action simply means that when you pull the trigger is performing two functions. This is in double action mode. The first function it's performing, it's cocking the hammer. See the hammer go back. That's action number one. Action number two, the gun fires. That is an example of double action. This is single action. Cock the hammer back. You're now in single action mode. You can see the trigger is way back farther. Yeah. You can see the trigger is way farther back than in the double action mode, and the trigger pull in single action mode, which this is much lighter than the heavy double action pull. A lot of people, when they're target shooting, prefer to cock the hammer back and shoot in single action. And the reason being is the single action trigger pull does not mess up your sight picture. It does not pull the gun off target when you pull the trigger. It's a very easy touch, and this can be very dangerous. That's why when you see somebody with the hammer cocked back on a pistol, that gun is very dangerous to touch the trigger. I'm going to show you. It's a very light touch to pull the trigger in single action mode. That's it. And if you notice, the barrel did not move a whole lot in single action. Double action, this is a really heavy pull, and you'll notice the gun moving around a lot more. Single action, the gun hardly moves at all. That's an example of a DASA in a revolver. A lot of pistols are also double action, single action. Just to show the gun is unloaded. It was pre-checked. I just did it again on camera just to be safe. This is a double action, single action pistol. The same deal. The hammer is cocked already because I just racked the slide, so it is in single action mode now. A light pull of the trigger will fire this gun. Very light pull of the trigger. Now the trigger is reset. It's in double action mode. Much heavier trigger pull in double action. You can see it's cocking the hammer back. I'm going to put this where you can see it's cocking the hammer back and firing. This gives actually gives the pistol a restrike capability to be double action, single action. Let me get into this a little bit further. I'm trying to explain this without getting too confusing. When the pistol is double action, single action, you load your bullets into the magazine, load the magazine, rack the slide. You are now in single action mode. The hammer is cocked back. This has a decocker safety. I pull the safety down here That decocks the gun. Flip the safety back up on this one. The gun is now in double action mode, meaning I have to have a long trigger pull to make the gun fire. First action cocks the hammer, second action fires the gun. Now if this gun were loaded, the firing projectile would cause the slide to travel backwards. The spring will make the slide forward. The gun is now in single action mode. So your first shot is double action mode, which is a long trigger pull. The second shot will be single action, which is a very short trigger pull. That is what's meant by DASA, double action, single action. I can demonstrate on this gun. This is a DASA gun, but there are many guns that are double action only. They were called DAO, double action only. And I can simulate that with an unloaded gun here, because the slide will not be traveling and cocking the hammer back. A double action gun is just what it sounds like. Every trigger pull is a long trigger pull. A lot of people prefer that. It's much harder to shoot accurately with the DAO trigger because you have that long hard trigger pull. It's hard to keep your sights lined up when you're shooting, but a lot of people prefer a DAO trigger for safety reasons. The double action only pull makes the gun very similar to a revolver. There is no safety on a revolver. There is no safety on a revolver. If you pull the trigger, it will cycle and shoot with a long, heavy double action trigger pull. A DAO pistol is exactly the same thing. Long, hard trigger pull, and that does away with the need for a safety, because this trigger will not accidentally be pulled with 10 or 12 pounds of force all the way back to there. There are not many circumstances where that would accidentally happen. So there you go. DASA is double action, single action, which I just explained. SA is single action, and a lot of the old cowboy revolvers are single action only, meaning you have to cock the hammer back to fire them. This revolver, double action, single action. This pistol, double action, single action. Some pistols are double action only. A 1911 pistol is a single action only, meaning that it has to be cocked to fire. If you've seen in some of my other videos that I used for the demonstration, actually, my little 6-hour P238 is basically a miniature 1911. That's a single action only. I really wouldn't recommend a single action only pistol for someone who's new to shooting. It's just too complicated for some people to use in an emergency situation. You're much better off with a DASA pistol such as this, or a Glock, which has what is called a safe action trigger, which is completely different than everything else. I don't want to get too confusing with that, but that is basically what is meant by DASA, DAO. All right, folks, I hope I haven't totally confused you with this. Any questions, anything I wasn't clear on, please feel free to leave it in the comments below. Thanks, guys, and as always, appreciate you watching.